Good morning, everyone. It's Rod Fleming in the Philippines here. I hope you're well. I'm trying to do a recording back on the phone again because it was very, very good, but then it broke. But it has since been repaired at considerable expense and not very quickly. Before we go any further, please try to remember that we do need your cash, so give us a sub of some kind, go on to Patreon, something like that. The addresses are all there. I can make a promise that if enough of you join Patreon, I'll stop with the adverts. I'll cut out the YouTube adverts. They're a waste of time anyway. If enough of you join Patreon such that I don't need to, because basically YouTube I get like $50 a month. If some of you will just join the Patreon and replace that money, then that's fine. That's what we'll do. So, I want to talk today about promissory notes. Promissory notes. What is a promissory note? Well, if you have some money, like I don't, but never mind. If you have some money, take your wallet or your purse and have a look and take out $1 or £1 or whatever it is and have a look at it. That's a promissory note. That piece of paper that you have in your hand is intrinsically worth absolutely nothing. It has no real value. It's a piece of paper with ink on it. That's it. But it's backed by the authority of the state and law. So it's a promise of certain amount of value. Basically, a dollar bill is a promise that you can exchange that for that equivalent amount of value. That's a promissory note. So I want to talk about gender for a while because it's quite clear. People don't understand what gender is. And I hear a whole load of stuff about, how gender is, which way you part your hair, which way you button your shirt, and all absolute bloody nonsense. Yeah, well, these are manifestations of gender, but they neither explain what gender is nor why it exists. Gender is a promissory note, and it promises two things. Okay? These things are really, really important to humans. The two things are sex and availability. Okay? Feminine gender is an advertisement, a promise that underneath the clothes there lies a vagina. And that vagina, even more importantly, is available. If you do the right things, you can access it. Now, whether or not that's the case or not, that is the promise. And of course, masculine gender promises a penis, suitably erect and willing to do its duty. It's very simple. This is part of a mating strategy. This is how humans decide with which other humans to mate. It's really simple. There's nothing complex about this. It's just the basic stuff, same as peacocks are colourful and peahens are dull and all the rest of it. This is about sex. It's about reproduction. And gender is an essential part of that because it puts people who can fertilise and people who want to be fertilised together, such that we can make new humans. That's what gender is. And all of the little variations that happen all over the world and different little things here and there, they don't really count for anything. What's important is that promissory note. Okay? The promise, if we're talking about feminine gender for a moment, the promise that there's a vagina there and that if you do the right things, you can have access to that vagina. Okay? That's all it is. I know feminists like to make reams of nonsense out of rehashing Marx and Engels, but basically that's all it is. There's a problem. There's a problem because some people have a promissory gender which doesn't match their sex. And if you watch my stuff, you know that this is common enough. It's a significant subset of human population, perhaps as much as 50 million, 60 million worldwide. It's quite a lot of people. That's larger than most countries in Europe, and certainly much larger than most states in the United States. So there are an awful lot of people running around promising a certain thing. They cannot deliver. They can't deliver that, right? And that's a source of problems. That's where you get the thing that happens that is dangerous to these people. And we're talking about here about trans women, people who appear to be women but who are actually male and therefore have male organs, which obviously do not include, normally, a vagina. So, what can happen in a situation like that is that a man is attracted, because you're attracted to gender. You're attracted to the femininity that this person is displaying, and the promise, therefore, that there's a vagina that you can access there. So straight men are absolutely, yeah, that's fine. I see a pretty girl. There is no reason, assuming there's no other reason why not. I see a pretty girl, so why don't I just make the appropriate moves, buy her a drink, ask for her telephone number, take her out, whatever, and see if I can access that vagina that she's got, that she promises she has because of her gender. And then he gets her home. And let's suppose this is all fine. It's just great. The girl loves it. He likes him. He's displaying appropriate masculine gender, so she's quite sure that he's got an erect penis somewhere. We get back to the room, and lo and behold, she hasn't got a vagina. She's got a penis instead. And that's when the sky falls on. Because you've just had this you get a huge narcissistic rage response from the man. Why? Because he's been promised something, and he's worked himself up into a right state on the basis of that promise. He's randy as hell now, and suddenly like, oh my God, that's all been snatched away from him. It's been torn out of his grasp. All of his efforts, all the meals he's bought, all the drinks he's bought, all the taking her out to dance clubs, all the presents he's bought her, all of which were simply to get inside her vagina, cannot happen now because she hasn't got one. And this leads, in some cases, now it's not particularly common, but in some cases to incredibly violent attacks on trans women. For example, Jennifer Lowdy, a Filipina, was beaten to death by a US Marine called Joseph Pemberton, even though they had actually had sex. We know this because there were used condoms in the waste bin of the hotel room, and subsequently discovered presence of a penis. He beat her to death. Right? He strangled her. He beat her savagely, absolutely savagely. This is a Marine. This is a trained killer. Beat her savagely and then drowned her, just to make bloody sure that she was dead. And this is just something that happens. It's not common. It really isn't. I'm not making the case that trans women are a deadly risk all the time. They're not, but they are low-level risk frequently. Another example would be a lady called Gwen Araujo, who was obviously of some sort of Portuguese descent. She actually, again, in this case orally, had sex with 3 young men in her community. It was later discovered, after a forced strip, that she didn't have a vagina, so she had broken her promise, and the 3 young men got shovels and things and sticks and stuff like that and some petrol, and they beat her to death and then burned her body and buried her in the desert. These things do happen. They're not particularly common, but they do happen. And they happen because that promise, you made a promise to me and you cannot deliver on it. You're a liar. You're a terrible person. You're awful because you make this promise that you can't deliver on, and you know you can't deliver on it. Now, from the point of view of the girl, she is thinking, well, I might not have a vagina, but I've got something that's pretty damn good instead. You can just stick yourself in there and you'll enjoy it. Trust me, it's good fun, that one. She doesn't see it in the same terms at all. She says, well, I'm prepared to have sex with you. You just have to put it in the back passage. And bear in mind that a significant number of men desire that anyway. They desire it from natal women. So why would they not desire it from a trans woman? The answer to that is transphobia. They're actually afraid of penises, which is a weird thing. If you go into human culture and look back over the many millennia of human culture, men being afraid of willies is really a strange thing. That's not very common. That seems to be something that has appeared mainly in the United States of America in the last really 50 years, that ordinary men are actually afraid of penises. They don't want to look at them. No, I don't want that. It's a very new thing. I mean, seriously, you go back, you look at European art. I mean, there's willies all over the place. Look at Greek art. It's nothing but willies. Sometimes limp, sometimes not limp. But there's no suggestion that men were somehow disgusted or made fearful by looking at other men's penises. That's a really modern thing. That's a really modern and typically USican thing. So what we're saying is that the problem that trans women have, and mainly transsexuals, mainly real transsexuals, not so much autogynephiles, although some autogynephiles are attracted to men. Most autogynephiles are really hostile. They're really hostile to sexual advances from men. They're really anti. And of course that causes another problem because men think they're extremely rude because you've got this person there who looks convincingly feminine and is like rebuffing him in really aggressive, offensive terms. And naturally he gets angry. He goes, what's the problem? You're standing there dressed up to the nines, you look gorgeous, and you get insulted when I say that you look pretty. And of course, to an autogynephile, who is a man in a dress, that is another man complimenting her. And it's like, bang, cognitive dissonance, wallop. Anytime you hear a trans woman calling a man a chaser, for example, then you know that person is autogynephilic. That is not a real transsexual. Real transsexuals, they love to be chased. They love it. They live for it. They absolutely desire for men to pursue them sexually and seriously so. They love it. They love it partly because they really enjoy sex. These are people who have fully accommodated the use of their anuses as a sexual organ. They love it. They orgasm from it. They can't get enough. But at the same time, it's validation. It's, a handsome man is pursuing this person. She goes, I must be looking really good tonight. Because look at this Brad Pitt lookalike who's chasing me like I don't know what. And she's like, yeah, you take me, daddy. Come on. Anything you want to do, I'll do it. But if that Brad Pitt lookalike is like, maybe a bit drunk sometimes, and has got this thing in his mind that, between her legs, she's got a vagina. Well, when she drops the tea bags and there you go, there's a penis there. Well, in some cases, that man will freak out. He will just flip the lid. He might not feel that he's a transphobic man. He might be in his normal life, like, I'm accommodating, I believe in, I believe in live and let live, and everybody has blah, blah, blah. But when push comes to shove, when it's that moment of, expectation that the great reveal will happen, and what will be revealed is the passage to the goddess's womb, and what is actually revealed is a penis. A lot of these men, they can't actually help it. They're not really transphobic. I mean, I've called them that, but yes, in a way they are, but they wouldn't see themselves as transphobic. They're just reacting to something that they find, that they actually fear. I mean, so that is transphobia, because it's the irrational fear of transsexuals. And in this case, it's really penophobia. It's the irrational fear of penises. I mean, the girl's saying, look, I've got another thing round the back that's just as good. So get off your high horse and get in it. Because that's what she wants him to do. And he's going, I can't do that because look at that thing you've got. And I've actually seen men do this. Absolutely freak out. Oh, God, what is that thing? And it's like, well, what the hell are you on about? They're not exactly rare. There's a significant number of penises on the planet. And there always have been. What's your big deal about it? Unfortunately, a lot of this comes from, a USican culture which is deeply, deeply sick and deeply disturbed form of culture, and one which really does need to be re-examined in great detail. Now, I'm not talking about all the trendies, the trans trenders, the daft lassies who have their boobs removed, all of this stuff, and then regret it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real transsexuals here. Now, you get female ones as well, but we are mainly talking about the male ones here. And the male ones are very good at appearing to be women. They're very, very good at performing femininity. Believe me, they're excellent at it. They're actually so good at it that in parts of the world where there are a lot of visible real transsexuals, such as here, they are the go-to for ordinary women when it comes to, makeup advice. And you see that on YouTube too. The ordinary women go, well, these people really know about how to look good, so I'll go and ask them. And so they are makeup artists, they're hairdressers, they're advisors, your clothing advisors, all that sort of thing. They give information to women on how to appear more feminine because they are so good at it themselves. It's simple. They're so good at being feminine that women go, it's maybe a little unfair that you, who are actually male, can look that damn good, but whatever it is you're doing, I want some of it. Okay? So that's what they do. And this is, for a lot of people, this is quite hard to deal with. I mean, I accept that. But you just need to get over yourself. I mean, the transsexuals have been with us forever, literally forever. Right through recorded history, we've had transsexuals. They've been prominent in society, in all societies. And it's, the current Western model is so much at odds with everything else that you have to consider it to be aberrant. You have to say, well, there's something really weird about this society. Had you, even now, I'll be honest with you, even now, there's loads of local guys who will have sex with trans women and they just don't tell anybody. They just keep it on the down low. In certain cultures, shall we say, in the United States, this is normal. Men will not reveal that they are dating or that they enjoy dalliances with transsexual women because the culture doesn't like it. But they still do it. They're still doing it. They're just doing it quietly. So what is happening here is that men, or we'll talk about men, and it works the other way more or less in females, but for men, men are initially attracted to gender, to feminine gender. But that feminine gender is actually a promise, right? It promises certain things. Now, clearly, there are some trans women out there who really, their performance of gender is, well, as I have many times said, the darkness is absolutely their best friend. Because if they're seen in the cold light of day, it's like, forget it. But the fact is that there are many, particularly real transsexuals, that's HSDS folks, are drop-dead gorgeous. Their performance of femininity is remarkable, and such that they are actually more feminine than all but a few women. So naturally, they attract men. That's the whole point. If you're an HSDS, if you're a real transsexual, that's what you're doing. You're trying to attract men. That's why the whole thing is so important to you, because it might give you that reward that you want. And that reward that you want is a man inside you. And they want straight men. They want ordinary, masculine men. They actually prefer married men. Men with children. Why? They've proved that they're not gay. Because in this culture, a gay would never father children, would never stay with a woman for that long and produce kids. So if he's done that, then they go, that one has got to be okay. That one has got to be one of the ones that we can rely on to be what we look for, which is the real man. And the point here is that what masculine, for them, not necessarily for women, but for real transsexuals, what masculine gender promises, its promissory note, it's not just for one of those, but it's that the man can give them his transformative mojo, right? Because in the act of sex with him, she fully realizes herself as a woman, as being taken by a beast of a man. And that's what she wants. She wants to be nailed to the bed by a beast. So she wants really strong mojo. She wants a guy who really, this is a guy. There's no mucking about here. He's not going to piss around. He's going to take you. I read recently an interview with a guy. Actually, it was a blog post with a guy, and he'd met one of the better-known ladyboys, Katoi, in Phuket, I think it's called. I'm not going to say her name. And she's very, very pretty, and she's quite well known. She's also incredibly well endowed, such that you just wonder how she manages to tuck it at all. Anyway, this guy made a date with her. It didn't work out. And I suspect, it wasn't stated, but I suspect this was because he wanted her to to penetrate him. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I want a man. And it was an interesting and a really honest little blog post, you know. It's very much, these things can be quite revealing about men. He said that he had offered her a glass of water when she hadn't asked. And she found this quite shocking. And later on said, you know, you're not really a man at all. You know, offering a woman a glass of water when she didn't ask, what kind of guy are you, you know? She was expecting men to be far more direct and macho. And that is a characteristic of Asian men. They tend to be very direct and very macho. You don't kid yourself. Whereas a Western men are brought up to say, well, you know, the girl's glass is nearly empty, I'll top her up, you know, that's normal politeness. She took his politeness as an indication that he was gay. And so she didn't want to know. It's like, no, I'm not having sex with you. And apparently the evening was something of a failure. And he was confused by it. But it's really quite obvious. He just didn't come across as masculine enough for this girl. That's what happens. You know, that was a promise. His masculine gender was promising certain things for this girl, which were, you know, an erect penis to start with, but also that mojo, that masculine mojo, that he would take her. You know, he would take her, overpower her, take her, you know, which is an essential part of sex. And, you know, feminists can rail all they like about it, and say what they like about, oh, that's rapey and stuff like that. But no, it's just part of sex. Women love to be nailed to the bed. I've spoken to so many over the years, and, you know, they have dreams about gorillas doing it. So it's just a natural thing, and you can't judge people on the basis of it. You just have to say, well, that's what they like. I mean, sure, there are probably women out there that don't like that kind of thing, but I mean, in my own experience, I can tell you, one of my early girlfriends, and we're going back, you know, the ice was still retreating at this point in time, believe me. And this girl, she was called Susie, blonde, cute, oh boy, blonde, blue eyes, cute as Jesus, she was cute. A little bit older than me. I was 18 or 19, and she was, I think, 19, and she was 22, I think. So she was a little bit more experienced, you know. And as a young man, that's a very good thing, by the way. So we'd had sex a couple of nights, you know, running. And then one night I don't really know what happened, but I was much more intense and aggressive in my lovemaking than I had been previously. And the next morning she was like, what happened? That was wonderful. That was brilliant. Don't do that other stuff again. Do what you did last night. That was just great. And she said, you know, I really felt that I was being delved. That was actually her word. And at the time, I'm like, I thought you were supposed to treat women really, really gently and all the rest of it. And it was, in a way, kind of shocking to me. Like, wait a minute, no. There's something going on here. There's something really visceral that this girl, and I think it's nearly all women, if they're not lesbians, enjoy. You know, it's part of the sexual reward. So that's what masculine gender promises. It's not just the existence of a hard penis. It's the mojo that goes with it. You know, the will to dominate, the will to be powerful. Because after all, in evolutionary terms, that's what women are looking for. They're looking for dominant men. Okay, so that's what gender is. We've discussed it now. It's a promissory note. And all of the little details that you see across the planet are just indications. They're conventional signals. You know, conventional signals demonstrating certain things. So in some cultures, for example, women don't wear anything above the waist. The boobs are completely free. And Westerners in the past have been absolutely horrified by it. Oh my God, I can see the boobs. But for the women there, that's not the issue. In other cultures, and Havelock Ellis is very good on this, women don't wear anything to conceal their what we would call their private parts, their vulvas. And again, that's considered shocking. They have other methods of displaying what they actually are, feminine gender, than what Westerners think is that, you know. The Western idea of what feminine gender is not necessarily what everybody else thinks, and the same is true the other way around. But the purpose of gender in all cases remains the same. Feminine gender is to advertise the presence and availability of a vagina, and masculine gender is to advertise the presence and availability of an erect penis with attendant mojo. Okay, so that's enough for today. This is an experiment to see if this phone is actually working now. If it isn't, well, too bad. We'll go back to the old way. I can just keep the sound. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you later. Bye-zy, bye-zy.